千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together.
Okay, looking at this slide, looking at the two Chinese characters right now, tianxia, and seeing the under the sky, under the heavens, I want to suggest that the perceptive students may have a question, a valid question. That is, okay, well, we see the two characters and we see how they should be translated. So in the official translation for this particular chapter, 29, why wouldn't you just translate literally, 天下, and make under the sky, or under the heavens, the translation? Okay, good question. The reason why it's translated as the world is because the usage in the original Chinese is as a noun rather than as a preposition. So when you are trying to use it as a noun, it has to be translated as the world. Another reason is that there are plenty of expressions in Mandarin that should not be translated literally. That should be translated to the nearest equivalent in English. Let me show everyone some examples. So, 天下, why not translate literally as under the sky or under the heaven? Let me demonstrate examples of how not to translate and the correct translation. For instance, take a look at this. 男人. These two very common Mandarin characters, the two characters literally translate to male and person. Now, when 男人 comes up, do you imagine that people will translate male person? They actually don't. They go to the intended meaning, which is man. Makes sense, right? A man is a male person. Now, just by looking at this example, you can probably extrapolate the other one, the similar one, the complementary one. How do you say woman? Well, in Mandarin, it's 女人. Literal translation would be female person, and that would be the wrong way to translate it. You would simply translate it as woman. That's it. Now, there are other examples that are even more obvious. So take a look at this. 电话. 电, the first character means electric, electricity, or electronic. Second character means talk. Electronic talk. What is that? Well, you guys are very intelligent. I think you can easily guess what it's supposed to be. You would never ever translate it as electronic talk. Instead, you would translate it as telephone. So we can extrapolate from there to understand other aspects, similar aspects of Mandarin. So look at this one. 电视, electronic vision. Whatever could that be? Does anyone have an idea? Not a trick question. Supposed to be easy. And of course, it really means television. You would never ever translate 电视 as electronic vision. You would always translate as television. So by the way, when it comes to a term like television, this is where you can see Sometimes people will say that, well, every Chinese character has multiple meaning, and then, throughout history, it's taken on different meaning, and therefore that's the reason why translations of the Daodejing vary so greatly. Okay, not true. Mandarin is like any other language on the face of this planet. Some terms have multiple meaning, some terms have just one. So, 电视, television, what's synonymous with that? Well, nothing really. You would simply translate as television. In English, we might get creative and say the boob tube, and that's actually an outdated term, realizing that nowadays most people just know television as the flat panel. It's the people who date themselves, like me, that still remember the tube. Okay, let's continue on. I think you are getting the hang of this, so I'll just do one more, and this is an interesting one, also very easy to guess. 电脑, electronic brain. That's a very evocative term. What is it? Obviously, I think everyone can guess. You would simply translate computer. You would never say electronic brain. Even though the two characters, that's what they are. 电 means electricity, electric, electronic. 脑 means brain. Okay, so enough about the electronics. I want to bring a term back in that's Dao related and showcase why you should not translate literally, but translate, the closest equivalent meaning in English. 自然. This comes up a lot in discussions about the Tao in the Daodejing. So composed of two characters, 自 means self, 然 means yes or so. So there's a teacher from the 60s, from the 1960s, who did not know Mandarin, studies it academically, and came up with a whole talk about 自然 means of itself so, and then talked a lot about that, delved into it rather deeply. Now, people ate it up. They really loved it because, they didn't know Mandarin either. As a native Mandarin speaker, I just had to laugh at that because the term means nothing more than natural. 自然 should never be translated as of itself so, as the teacher from the 60s suggested, but should always be translated as natural. And this one is, I left this one for last because this one is tricky. It's not referring to oneself in any particular way. It's not as easy to guess as all the electronic terms. It's not as easy to guess as the male and female. So that's the reason why it appears last. So there are still some challenges in translation. At the end of the day, you just really got to know the language. You got to be able to speak it. You got to be able to read it. You got to be able to draw a line between one language and the other. Got to be able to map the meaning. So I think, that was a fun, interesting look into linguistic differences and translation.
Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us travel safely. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.